I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar on how to automate your marketing agency to be paid on time, every time. My name is Harry Solomon. I'm the Global Head of Marketing for Demand Generation at Ignition, and I'll be your host for today's session. So I'm joined by two marketing industry experts in Laurianne Lachapelle, Director at Code Marketing, and Viraaj, President of Digital Tank Marketing Agency, as well as my colleague, Brad Wheeler, a product expert here at Ignition. Laurianne, Viraaj, Brad, absolute pleasure to be here with you today. For those of you learning about, thanks, mate. For those of you learning about Ignition for the first time, Ignition is a software that makes it simple to sell, bill, and get paid for your services all in one place. With automated billing and payment collection through impressive online proposals, Ignition helps marketing agencies and professional services businesses improve efficiency, optimize revenue, and deliver seamless client experiences via automation. And ultimately, that's what brings us to today's topic, how to automate your marketing agency to be paid on time, every time. Now, I'll share a little bit of a war story. Before my time working in the SaaS space, I once upon a time ran my own marketing agency. And one of the biggest challenges I faced was collecting age receivables. Now, I won't name and shame the company in this forum, but it pains me to say that I'm still chasing over $6,000 worth of outstanding invoices that date back to 2018. And when I first saw the Ignition product, I immediately wished that I'd known about it all those years ago. So today we have the pleasure of hearing from Laurianne and Viraaj, two people that can clearly run a marketing agency much better than myself, as they've utilized technology such as Ignition to streamline their billing and payment processes, as well as providing world-class client experience with impressive online proposals. In today's webinar, we'll hear a bit about their story and their journey with Ignition. And at the end of the session, following a brief Q&A, Brad will also take us through the Ignition platform to show you firsthand how easy it is to streamline your billing and payments processes with Ignition. Now, we encourage everyone to put questions using the Q&A function, and this webinar will be recorded and shared with all of you afterwards. So I guess enough from me. Without further ado, I'd like to invite our panelists to introduce themselves. Laurianne, I'm not sure if you want to start.
Yes, I can go ahead. Thank you so much for the introduction, and thanks for the invitation as well. I'm very glad to be here today. So I'm a Director of Finance, Talent, and Culture at Code Marketing, which is a digital marketing agency based in Montreal, in Quebec. I've worked more than 7 years in accounting and management of organizations. I worked in the bank and nonprofit, and today I am in a digital marketing agency. And I'm very passionate about small businesses. That's why I decided to join this wonderful agency we are in, because we're very technological oriented. So we use a lot of tools to help us on the daily basis. And as a digital marketing agency, we are specialized in search engine optimization. We do also search engine marketing, digital marketing strategy, marketing 360, and social media marketing. That's basically our offer. So that's basically an introduction. I can let Viraaj introduce himself.
Awesome, appreciate your time. Viraaj Solanki here with Digital Tank Marketing Agency, also known as DTMA. We're based in sunny Sacramento, California. Started this agency, founded it back in 2019, went through the pandemic and still rocking and rolling. But notice, when you start a company from nothing to something, you're starting at a small scale and you start growing after that. And so, as a business owner, you're wearing all kinds of hats. And one of it, of course, is billing. And so it's been a great process, just to understand what we're like, to work with Ignition and how we're able to collect. And so I'm excited to break that down for you guys. But as an agency, we were very boutique, focusing on social media marketing locally. And then working with a nationwide brand, we scaled, to locations all throughout the United States. And so when you get to, 15 to 80 plus locations, you can only imagine what billing is going to be like. So grateful. I would use the word blessed, or the statement blessed, but stressed, but Ignition has definitely changed that way. So.
Thank you very much, Viraaj. And Brad?
Yeah, perfect. My name is Brad Weiler. I'm a product expert here at Ignition. Very opposite of Viraaj. I'm here in snowy Toronto, Canada. So getting a little bit of cold weather over this way, but I'm one of a greater team here that is essentially here to help you with your onboarding and to find out exactly what Ignition can do for your particular marketing agency or digital agency as you take the plunge into the platform. So excited to speak with you further about that today.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much all for that. And it's easy to see why we're so excited to be here today. Listen, let's get stuck straight in. And I guess first question for our panelists in the hot seat today is, what made you look for a billing, payments, and proposal tool for your agency? Talk us through the problems that you were trying to solve for your marketing firm.
All right. Yeah, so I think, the old school way I was running was creating invoices through QuickBooks, customizing invoice numbers and then emailing out to each client. And then you do that the first of the month, and then middle of the month, we're net 15. So we're checking to see if they paid, if they've shipped a check over or processed by ACH. And then towards the end of the month, you're like, where's my payment? So the amount of hours that went into it. So there's a few things that was to streamline operations from a business owner standpoint. I'm all about efficiency. I'm all about integrating. I'm all about using platforms that make sense, right? And so that after going through QuickBooks and understanding that process, I had to streamline my operations at that point, so then I could focus on other things. Time, as we all know, running a business or doing anything in the jobs we do, time is valuable. We got to maximize our time. So that was a pretty big thing, a big part for why I wanted to make that transition. And then honestly, even enhance the experience for the customer. From a marketing agency standpoint, you got to deliver an experience from a creative standpoint, or even from a billing standpoint, or how you communicate, things like that. So making sure finding a platform to be able to help with that. And then I think the biggest thing is improving cash flow, especially when you start hiring employees, when you have so many subscription costs, you start stressing as a business owner. You're like, am I going to make payroll? But, so being able to collect fast enough was a big part of that. And then of course, having a platform. So those are my main reasons of when I am making decisions as a business owner of what platform I'm going to choose, how can I integrate, things like that. That is a big part of what I'm looking at. And so going and checking out Ignition, it checked all those boxes. Now, from an accounting platform coming to a marketing platform, right, it's how to customize. So it was pretty cool to kind of adapt and, create that customization that I needed, but then also what my client could expect or experience. So.
Yeah, I can totally relate to your experience, Viraaj, because for us, it's funny because we were looking at two systems. We were looking for a proposal tool and we were looking for a pre-authorized payment system. So for the proposal tool, we used QuickBooks as well at first, and it was a very, not bad, but very basic proposals. And since our beginning, our agency is very committed to deliver high quality services to our client, and we are very dedicated to their success. We have this human relationship, and that's what makes us special. But the proposal were not reflecting what we commit and deliver on a daily basis. So it was more or less likable, I could say, to send proposal that are like a draft. So we were looking for something that will impress, that will feel professional, that will have this feeling. You say, wow, I have confidence in the agency I'm in front of for the potential customer. So we were looking for a tool that will answer this need, but also we were looking for pre-authorized payment system. But payment were not necessarily the biggest issues, but we wanted to offer a complement offer to our client, actually. So the fact that pre-authorized payment is not only good for us, but it's good for our clients, because they can save admin time if they don't have to plan for payment. Some clients are very small businesses, and basically the owner is doing everything. So sometimes not everyone is good at managing invoices and pay on time. It's not that they won't pay, but it's just that they're very busy and they have something else to think about. So the fact that we have this option for those types of businesses, it's something that we were looking for, to give an option to those busy businesses that won't have this administrative time.
Yeah, perfect. I appreciate the answers there. And I think that's something we hear all the time, right? Not necessarily that clients aren't paying. They're just not necessarily paying on the times that, we'd like them to as well. And I think you both have a story that resonates with pretty much probably everyone in this room with respect to that as well. And I'm curious to dive into that a little bit more. And I'll start with Viraaj, because you were the one who answered there first with respect to, invoicing at the beginning of the month, checking up, midway through, and then again towards the end of the month. looking at a potential 30-day or longer turnaround when looking at that as well. Mm-hmm. After implementing Ignition with the automation side of that, and having that feed directly into your QuickBooks or Xero or whatever you use at your particular agency, what is that additional time back to you meant for the agency, and how either you're growing today or putting more time into other projects? I'm just curious what that's meant for you.
A lot. Like I think it was like 2 weeks ago, I was actually processing the hours I was putting into before till now. Before, I would say on a monthly basis, I was averaging about 7 to 8 hours a month, based on what I just broke down the scenario, right? Beginning, middle, and end. Now mm-hmm. I'm focusing probably around 2 hours a month, like just to look into billing and make sure everything's correct and collected. And being able to go into the dashboard and, from a proposal standpoint, I'll bring that up, is being able to see where your leads are at, because as you're talking to so many you're having all these sales calls, you're drafting proposals, shipping it out. But then again, just being able to see in a snapshot of what is still outstanding or who you need to follow up with, that's a win. The second piece, 100%, is being able to collect on the first of the month, or getting that right. And so I've saved a lot of hours. So that's a win. I'm less stressed, and I'm able to focus on my team, which has been a win. And then, of course, giving the customer a better experience. And that's something that then they don't have to think about, because if I keep calling them and saying, where's my payment? You can only imagine what that experience is like. But where it's like, now my phone calls with them are now more of strategy, talking about their business. That's not the thing they're worried about then. It's not money. It's about growth and strategy and helping them. So definitely seen a difference with even how our client experience has been with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's almost like removing the stress from the relationship on both sides, to yourself and the customer, and just making sure that it's focused strictly on something that's going to be beneficial for the two of you. And totally. Laurianne, I'm curious from your perspective as well. Obviously with the integration piece for your payments and the automation side there, you spoke specifically to the proposal side too, and having something that did in fact represent your brand. I'd love to get your perspective as well on, how you feel our proposals may have helped you showcase your brand in the way that you actually want it.
Yeah, totally. The proposal helped us in many ways. I would say one thing is the option that we have to add a brochure, to add a video, to add personalized elements, such as a personalized message at the beginning and also at the end of the proposal. This were some things that were very useful for us to just add those little details that will really make an effect on our client.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. And I think too, like having the customization piece, to have your logo in there, your own color scheme, maybe you don't necessarily want a brochure, but you want to have like a catalog of your offering and what you'd like in there as well. The fact that it can be any form of PDF, you can really represent your brand the way you'd like. So I appreciate the insight there. Harry, I'll maybe pass it back over to you as well.
Sorry, I was on mute as always. One thing that I'm, I guess, really keen to delve into as well is how, Laurianne and Viraaj, how did you first find out about Ignition? Keen to hear your stories.
Go ahead, Viraaj.
My CPA, he's the one. He uses me as his case study every single time he tries new platforms, and he tested me out. He sent me a proposal, went through the whole process, and I was like, okay, I can see what you're talking about. And then next thing you know, he sees, of course, my books. And so he knows the growth that we were seeing. And that's when it was like, you need to make the change. And so, CPA, and I'm very grateful for him. So yeah, it's a win.
It's the same for us in the way that we're the accounting firm we were working with. They use Ignition. So that's how we actually knew about Ignition. But then we worked with a business specialized with automations, and they also proposed us Ignition at this point. They talked to us about Ignition, and that's how we discovered the platform.
Fantastic. It's really interesting to hear that you both have such similar stories. And, it is something that we have been hearing quite a lot. We obviously service all professional services businesses, but we originally were, we were originally an accounting software built by an accountant for accountants. But we have sort of been coined at the moment where the tool that your accountant never told you about. So it's nice to know that your accountants have told you about it. And it's very interesting to hear. Brad, any other experiences that you've sort of had, in your time speaking to a lot of your Ignition customers, those are marketing agencies? How have they sort of found out about Ignition?
Yeah, I feel like it's constantly changing, Harry. I mean, with our offerings expanding and obviously becoming more and more digitized in the greater world here, I think we're hearing more and more people coming from different backgrounds and stories. But I definitely run into a lot of these instances where, you know, an agency is in fact working with a CPA, they receive a proposal, they can see how customized it is from that perspective. And the juices start flowing a little bit to think, oh, could I utilize this for my clients? And, you know, it was so seamless when I received it. What would that mean for my client journey as well? And, you know, it's beginning to grow, and I'm starting to see things like HR consultancy agencies, digital agencies, production agencies. Dealt with one the other day that does work for NFL branding and things like that as well. So, you know, the opportunities are endless with what you could really propose or sell any type of service with respect to that. And I think that as you kind of alluded to, we were kind of that tool that your accountant knew about but kind of hid from the rest of the world. I think we're now being, you know, pushed out by everybody, and it's starting to really capture the fact that if you're selling a service and you need to get paid for it, we can help you automate that and put more time back in your calendar.
Yeah, no, this took the words out of my mouth, but I think you summarized that perfectly. Well, I guess following on from that topic, like we just sort of spoke about how we sort of came across it. I guess, can you guys talk about your experience in implementing it into your business? Like we spoke briefly about it before, but you know, what has actually the outcome been? What's the impact been on your business?
Totally.
Viraaj, I'm not sure if you want to go first. Yeah,
I'll kick it off. So yeah, as a business owner, as a marketing agency, like you're constantly looking for platforms. And again, in this world, digital world, like there's so many platforms coming out, right? So being able to make sure like this makes sense for your agency, for your processes. And again, back to automation, like how to streamline your time. So implementing Ignition, I'll say this, like I did my research, I went through it firsthand with my own CPA, but then onboarding with you guys, like it was great. Like it actually, you guys took the time, you broke it down. I think I had a few onboarding calls. We were able to test out example clients with Space Ranger and, you know, just being able to like see the scenario. So then again, back to what Brad said, like the juices start flowing. You're like, what would make sense in the scenarios we've experienced? Because again, every agency, every business is so unique and different, and how they onboard, how they sell, how they close, things like that. So implementation was great, especially because I could either take my time in the onboarding or I could go rapid, fast, and implement as fast as possible. I was in the medium, in the middle, right? So that was great. And honestly, the outcome has been like, well, why didn't I do it sooner? To be completely frank. So yeah, I think honestly with that, like just doing it sooner and implementing it. And again, I love the fact that you guys integrate with QuickBooks. So then it makes it easier for my CPA to reconcile every month, so that I know what is real-time numbers each month. So.
Yeah, I totally connect with what you said. Something very good about the implementation process at Ignition for us was that you're not led by yourself. You have implementation specialists with you. We had onboarding calls, and this person also help you keep you accountable in the process of implementing the solution. So it was really great to not only know more about what are the best practices to implement Ignition, but also to just follow up on, hey, how it's going with your team, how it's going in the implementation process. And it was great to have those calls at the beginning. And after this implementation, you're also not led by yourself, because you also have an account specialist with you, an account manager. So it's great to have your own account manager. I know Isabelle, which is mine, she's also from Quebec, so we speak in French together. That's great to have someone you can really have a connection with. And for anything I need, I just write to her. And also you have all the support you need to implement, but also after the implementation as well. I thought it was really good for us. Also, the thing about Ignition is the application itself is very user-friendly and flexible. This is one thing I want to say, because as an accountant, I'm used to tools that aren't very easy to use, and to have an easy tool that is easy to understand, that doesn't need a lot of concentration to manipulate it. It's very nice to use, and it's very easy to teach other people to use it as well. So we are a team of 20 to 25 people. So you have a lot of people to teach. And the fact that it's user-friendly, it's easy for everyone to understand how to manipulate the tool and be familiar with. So, and also without compromising flexibility, I say, because sometimes the tools that are very flexible are not very user-friendly, but Ignition is combining flexibility with user-friendly. I think it's a great thing, because all the tools are not made that way.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great call out with respect to the support side of things too. And I think it's important for anyone in any type of agency, whether you're a sole proprietor or, you know, a large agency with 50 or more employees. The good thing about us at Ignition is we'll really figure out the right package for you and the amount of support you need and ensure you get that as you onboard. And both of you alluded to the fact that it was obviously an easy implementation and you had that, you know, flexibility and you had the reliable aspect of the support on the back end. And I think something I hear all the time, whether you're an agency or an accountant or, you know, anybody who's selling a service online, the most daunting thing about implementing a brand new platform is usually that ramp up, the onboard time. And more often than not, when you're doing something, especially if it's going to be affecting company-wide, it's like this ramp up, you can expect it to be 3 to 6 months with a lot of groundwork needing to be in the back. And, you know, we don't necessarily hear that all the time, but I'm curious from both your perspective, and Viraaj, I'll maybe go back to you here first here. But I'm curious around your own comfortability with the platform. Would you say, you know, you were pretty comfortable enough to use it within a day, week, you know, did it take a month? I'm curious how quickly you felt comfortable enough to almost self-drive.
Yeah, I'll probably say within a week, you know, you got to go in there and get some practice in. And even after the onboarding, right? Like you go through those calls again, we're all human beings. We forget certain things here and there. So again, even after the onboarding and having, you know, my go-to account manager right now, there's scenarios that still come up. And so it's like, hey, how can you help me navigate this? And literally, like, I'll send an email and within probably like 3-4 hours, I'll get a full response, a Loom video to break down how to navigate those scenarios. So once you get a weekend, I guarantee you after that, it's like game on. So yeah.
And Laurianne, how about yourself? How long did it take you to kind of feel to a point where you were pretty comfortable to use things and almost self-drive in a similar scenario?
Yeah, I would say the same, 1 week, and I was very used to it after 1 week of using it and just play with the platform, put our service on, and try some proposals, and then sending them to the clients for testing. It's been very easy to get used to, and within a week, all done for me.
Perfect. And, you know, when you're looking at overall timeframes, to be able to automate certain aspects of your business and regain some of those, you know, time and eliminate the stressors of that, 1 week is a pretty quick turnaround when you kind of put it that way.
No, definitely. A question I also have as well. So like we've obviously talked about, you know, implementing it, what sort of the outcomes have been as well. But when we actually talk about like not tangible benefits, but say if we were to say, when we talk about your accounts receivables, after implementing Ignition, like, is it still a problem for your agencies, or is it something that is now a thing of the past? Viraaj, I don't know if you want to start.
Yes, because as I mentioned, all businesses and people are different. You know, there's some clients that are like, they still process via checks. So yes, collections on that is a little pain, but as for everything else, you know, that do sign up with the ACH or credit card feature, it's fast. It's great. And honestly, when you go into QuickBooks and you see what you collected, you know, by day 5, day 6, you're just like, great, awesome, thank you. So yeah, I've definitely, I've seen a difference, a massive difference.
Yeah, Laurianne, same for you?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we can see the difference. And what is useful with this is we can also budget better because we know what's coming in, and it's very easy to see the cash flow coming in when you use Ignition for most of your clients. So that's helped us a lot with the financial management of the organization as well.
Fantastic. Brad, any other experiences that sort of you have? Obviously, you're speaking to a lot more sort of Ignition customers and hearing a lot more success stories than sort of I'm. Anything else that you share and add to that, or something that you've heard recently?
Yeah, I ultimately think the two of you hit the nail on the head there. I think with, you know, being able to forecast better for your particular business and knowing that these automated payments, whether they're on a monthly, weekly, quarterly, semi-annual, annual, one-off, whatever they may be, just knowing that you have a payment method on file and being able to bring that in on the day that it's actually supposed to be there is so beneficial for forecasting, not only on a budgetary side, but also internal and anything you might need. And, you know, having the dashboard view with the revenue right there in front of you, it allows you for trackability on a month-by-month basis. So, you know, that can eliminate the need to go and try to find these numbers for your Friday or Monday meetings, or for, you know, senior leadership teams or anything along those lines. So I think that that's another thing I hear quite often that has been extremely helpful there. And just the ease of purpose, something that's going to automatically raise your invoices in QuickBooks, automatically collect the payment on the day that it's due, and then automatically reconcile. It's just going to further eliminate those manual hours that you're potentially doing that on your own right now.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Brad. Unless there's any questions in the Q&A, keen to sort of either wrap up or go straight to Brad, your demo, just so we can at least show everyone on the webinar today Ignition in practice. And excuse me if I look distracted. I'm an Australian in Toronto, and it has now just started snowing. It has just started snowing outside.
Now, Harry, we've actually got one question that I just saw come through from someone in the chat. It looks like it's directed at both Laurianne and Viraaj, so I'll just read it out here really quickly. We have someone who says, I own my own marketing agency, and my biggest issue I'm currently facing right now are projects going out of scope or outside of the services. So I'm chasing clients for change orders constantly. Are you managing this? / do you have any tips for me here?
Viraaj, you want to start?
Oh, yeah, I'll kick off with that one. So one thing about this is, as you all know, is like templates, right? So being able to create templates. I have 3 departments at our agency. So being able to at least drag and drop, send, all that fun stuff from a proposal standpoint. And then of course, billing aligns with that. Now back to your point, like I get the same thing. I get one-off projects within a client, right? And so I think at the end of the day, we're in the business of people. So having that conversation to where I'll send them a proposal if it's a one-off. And then again, it'll just be a one-off payment at that point. That's pretty much how I'm just navigating within there. So hopefully that answers your question, Amanda, on that piece. But I am creating a proposal based on that one-off project for that change order, for that, so forth. So
something else you can do as well, and I'm going to interject here a little bit, and this may be kind of new across the board, or maybe I'm going to instill some knowledge on the product there too. When you actually are inside of a proposal that's been accepted by a client, if you find that the scope of work has changed, maybe you've done a little bit extra, or maybe you spent, if you're billing hourly, a couple different hours within that particular month, you can actually now go into the overall summary of the services that you have an agreement with them on, and you can actually edit the scope right there for the next billing. So you could update the price, you could update the actual service scopes, and that can be done in a one-off. So that way, rather than sending an entirely new proposal for that particular one-off project, you can actually just add it directly to the next invoice, which will automatically prompt them so they can see the change. It's going to be something the client will see, but it's not going to require an additional signature in that sense. So Amanda, if you're dealing with that, you may want to even look at that aspect as well, just to really be able to change that scope as it's required.
Yeah, to be honest, I was about to say the same, because this option is really a life-saving option. As well as for us, we also use the terms and conditions in the message. We insert messages saying that, okay, this is your scope of work right now, but it can evolve through time. And if it's evolved, we can have a discussion over it, and it could imply that we will bill more. So we have this communication directly in Ignition for the scope of work.
I'd really like to take the time to thank Laurianne and Viraaj for their time today, sharing your story as well as your journey with Ignition. It's always such a joy to hear about how, Ignition has helped professional services businesses, in particular marketing agencies, obviously have a bit of a sweet spot myself, but, improve their efficiency, optimize revenue, and ultimately deliver that seamless client experience via automation. Thank you all those for joining as well. As mentioned, we will share a recording of this session with all those that registered. And we hope that you found it beneficial, and we look forward to sharing the tool that your accountant should have shared with you to the broader marketing industry. And yeah, again, thank you so much for your time, all that joined today, and look forward to continuing to work together with you, Laurianne and Viraaj. And thank you as well, Brad.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.